All right, please proceed.
Thank you once again for allowing me to be here today. It seems like a year has passed relatively quickly since I was sitting in this same seat talking about this same issue a year ago. First and foremost, I think I need to answer Representative Jackson's question correctly. The superintendent is not on the list of people that will be serving. I have the opportunity, based on the sub, to pick 3 principals, of which one could be on the committee chosen by the LRC, but I am not on that committee at this time. So let's make sure we're very clear about that in the language. I think you are correct. The superintendent or designee should definitely be on this committee. If it is true to what has been stated about let's improving JCPS, educators need to be on this, not just me, but other educators in JCPS, parents, teachers as well. But if this is truly about let's improving JCPS, then let's make sure we are well represented by the folks that are most impacted by JCPS as well. So thank you for that question, Representative Jackson. I do feel like this is Groundhog Day. This is my 7th session that I have been superintendent in JCPS, and there is no doubt every one of them has been an attack on JCPS in one way or another. All 7, and really 5 or 6 before I became superintendent of JCPS. There is no doubt about it. But this one definitely takes the cake, obviously, for the one that comes the most. I mean, just in the past 2 or 3 weeks, we have been accused in JCPS of being wasteful spenders and wasteful savers at the same time. Now, I don't know how it's possible to be a wasteful spender and a wasteful saver at the same time, but that is a fact that we have heard more often here in the last several weeks on the Senate floor just last week. So I've tried to ask people to focus on the facts. Let's focus on some of the facts that we get accused of more than anything else in JCPS. First off, let's talk about last week. Just things like a reserve fund of $340 million was on the floor. I don't think I have owned transportation mistakes. I think you all have heard that. Not one time have I ever blamed funding from the legislature for transportation woes. Today, we have 558 bus drivers and 565 routes, with probably 40 to 50 bus drivers absent because of illness. That puts us underwater today. So I have not asked for additional funding from the legislature at all, at any time for that. But that once again continues to be said. Also that we have $340 million in reserve on the Senate floor. We also know we are spending, if anyone looks at our draft budget that was in January, you will see that we are spending $90 million more than we are taking in this year in Jefferson County Public Schools, because we are trying to pay bus drivers, teachers, employees, rightfully so, what they deserve, so that we can definitely fill all the vacancies that we have, just like your districts all around the state. It's the same thing. So with a $90 million spending more than we are taking in, we are facing a fiscal cliff in 3 years. And it is, I would ask you, when there are attacks on Jefferson County Public Schools like that, when it comes to the reserve, please look at the percentage of your district's budgets across this state and see if it's any different than Jefferson County Public Schools. In fact, you will find reserves across the state in many counties are much higher than JCPS's. But these are facts that people don't want to talk about. We often hear about this bloated central office. That's a common thing we hear all the time. As a matter of fact, if you go to the Kentucky Department of Education's website, our central office is the lowest in the state per student dollars. But that's a fact that you will not hear up here. We hear about this oversized budget that's bigger than Metro Louisville's budget. Well, if we go across this state, it is right in line in scale with other districts' budgets, and most school district budgets are bigger than the city council in which they reside. That is a fact. We are the 2nd or 3rd largest employer in Jefferson County. And so, once again, all I'm asking is that we focus on the facts, and more than anything, treat us just like your districts, every other district in the state right now. And if this is truly about student outcomes, then put in that bill that any district below a certain level of proficiency that is similar to JCPS will face the same investigation, task force, commission to find out about outcomes. But that won't happen because it's just about JCPS, and it continues to be. And I have to say, when I look at facts versus what I hear up here, I continue to be that this either is just an attack on JCPS or on the city of Louisville. And finally, I will say this to you, and I think this is the most important. This is not about me as superintendent. We all know splitting up the district, we all know that's never happened in any city in America, deconsolidation. The challenges, and the commission will find this, that it is an impossibility to do. It is an absolute impossibility to do with just amazing inefficiencies that will happen. That will be found. But at the same time, we are wasting our time not talking about the main thing. And I believe this. Keep the main thing in education. Well, in any type of leadership. Keep the main thing. And I will tell you this. I'm asking for a favor. And when I say a favor for us, I'm not talking about JCPS. I'm talking about the superintendents and the educators of this state. 95% of your energy and efforts should be spent on mitigating the top 3 issues in education in the Commonwealth. And this is, ask any of your superintendents. Number 1, teacher vacancies. Number 2, bus driver vacancies. Number 3, student attendance. Those are crises in every district in the Commonwealth, or 90% of them. And we spend so much of our time talking about other things. I'll give an example. Last year, we spent a great amount of time talking about parents' rights to challenge books in our libraries. We then developed policy that these challenges could go to our Board of Education. It is now the first week in March, 75% of the way through the year. And I will tell you how many books have been challenged in front of our Board of Education. 0. None. And so I ask of you, this is the most important, and I am scared for the future of education in this Commonwealth, what it will be like 10 years from now. We need 95% of our time and effort focused on teacher vacancies, bus driver vacancies, and student attendance, or the crisis in education 10 years from now will be immense. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning. As the chair of the Jefferson County Board of Education, I want to speak in opposition of the resolution HCR 81, as it unduly focuses on JCPS, and it is repetitive in nature, particularly because during my time on the Board of Education, JCPS has undergone numerous audits and reviews. And if Representative Fleming is really interested in understanding how our processes and procedures are leading to the outcomes of students, those audits and reviews are available for him and for anyone who is interested. We would invite you to review those instead of imposing another such measure on JCPS, which robs our professionals of the time and energy that they need to dedicate to educating minds throughout our district. It is true that JCPS faces unique challenges among Kentucky school districts, and we face those challenges as a consequence of our community. Our community is a large community, it's an urban community, and it has a lot of complicated issues of which we need your help to mitigate and to ensure that we are molding young minds in the best possible fashion. This type of resolution does not do that. It does not help us with the goals that our superintendent has just mentioned and those broad goals of ensuring that we cultivate the minds of the future. And so I want to ensure that we make you aware that every year our school system has undergone reviews and audits, and another such audit and review would do nothing but take away critical time and attention that we need to ensure that our students are succeeding at the levels that we know that they are able to. When the opening day of school went so poorly, we did not hear from any of you as to how we could make things better. We extend an opportunity for you to really come and explore Jefferson County Public Schools and see the ways that we can enrich the educational process and ensure that we are providing quality education for every single student. But we need your help for that. And a resolution such as this does not reach that goal. So we're happy to be here today. And we hope that you will join us in ensuring that we decrease teacher vacancies, that we decrease bus driver vacancies, and that we ensure that every boy and girl who enters the building of a JCPS school receives all of the quality resources that they need to be their best selves. Thank you.
On the agenda, so we'll try and get to as many questions as we can. First, Representative Josh Callaway.
Yes, I have a quick comment first. I have reached out to some people in JCPS and asked to come be a part of a day and visit some schools. I did that on multiple occasions and was never followed up with, and I just want to say that I still offer that to be able to come and see how that I can help. And I wasn't going to bring this up, but you brought up Senate Bill 5 from last session. And I just wanted to ask you, Dr. Pollio, specifically, do you think it is permissible for a child to be exposed to pornography in a school setting?
No, sir, I don't believe that. But I also believe that there is a process to go through, and there was a process to go through. We had one in policy prior to the bill last year. But, you know, we have, once again, if that's the case, we have had 0 challenges to our Board of Education in 3/4 of a year.
And so your answer is that you don't think it's permissible?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Next, Representative Bauman. I'm going to limit everybody to one question, please.
Mr. Chairman, I only have 6 questions, if that would be okay. Kidding, of course, sorry. Thank you for the opportunity. Dr. Pollio, Dr. Shull, thank you both for coming today. I deeply appreciate you being here to advocate for JCPS. I have 2 students in JCPS myself, and I support both of you and making sure that we have the most effective district possible. Dr. Pollio, you mentioned the big 3, teacher vacancy, bus driver vacancy, and absenteeism. I agree that our absenteeism rate is chronic. At 38% was the last number I saw. That's unacceptable. Vice Chair Truitt and I are working on legislation that's going to help with truancy. We've passed money in the budget for teachers' wages the last couple budgets, so you'll have the opportunity to continue to increase their pay, Dr. Pollio. But when it comes to the teacher vacancies and the bus driver vacancies, what I hear from people in my district and teachers that I know and from being in the schools in JCPS is it is a student discipline issue that goes all the way up to administration not supporting consequences for behavior in the classroom or on the school bus. I'd like to give you an opportunity to respond to that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Representative Bauman. And so I've said this in my State of the District. One of the most frustrating things for me is I come here to Frankfort and I hear that we are under-disciplining students. Yet when we talk about other government entities, specifically federal governments and the Kentucky Department of Education, we are over-disciplining, according to them, more than anyone else in the entire state. And will face consequences for over-disciplining. So I will be honest, a major struggle for me is how, and this goes to to the point of the facts of how can I under-discipline as a district and over-discipline at the exact same time. You know, I would love to sit down with you, Representative Bauman, look at our data, show you the data of that. But then I would also say, if this was just about discipline in JCPS, we would only have a teacher vacancy problem in JCPS. It would not be chronic across the Commonwealth and the nation, and it would not be a matter of about half of the candidates going into post-secondary certification programs that they just did 10, 12, 15 years ago. And so I say this to say, like, it's not anyone's fault. I'm not saying it's the legislators' fault. We all have a piece in this when it comes to teacher vacancy. However, it is a reality that in 10 to 12 years, we will not be working in the same paradigm. I worry our kids will be sitting in theater settings with 50 to 75 kids and a teacher on the screen. I believe that could be the future of teaching in the Commonwealth of Kentucky unless we act right now. And I believe with the budget resources that we have right now, because we know of the influx of federal funds during COVID, this is an opportunity like we've never had before. So I understand what you're saying, and I believe teachers having to meet the challenges of kids that the challenges that face in their homes and their community and from poverty and bring them into the school manifests itself many times into behavior issues. But, that's another problem that we have to solve. But I'd love to sit down with you and talk specifically about the data and show you that data. Because if teachers and schools are saying that we aren't disciplining, they're obviously not listening to me, or that we're telling them not to discipline, they're not listening to me. We just got to look at the data.
Next, we have Representative Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all. I've just got a few. Most of my questions have been answered, I think, but maybe more of a statement. But number one, Dr. Pollio, if we are going to do this, I think you should be on the committee.
Thank you.
The superintendent of the district has a lot of answers that this task force would try to be drawn out anyway. So that only makes sense. Another thing I'd like to see happen is, if we're going to have task force members, then we need to have them to know something about Jefferson County Public Schools. So I think if we're going to have this task force, that the members ought to be required to spend a day in one of your highest percentage free and lunch schools and lowest, so that our members get a feeling of what it's like in Jefferson County Public Schools. And, the thoughts on this, I don't know what to think, to be honest with you, after the testimony and all this. But how many legislators call you and say, what can we do to help you? That'd be a question that I have.
Well, I don't get a lot of phone calls, I'll say that. But I do get some from our local legislators who talk and ask, and I meet with them regularly. So, I don't want to say that I don't, it's not that they're not saying to me, I believe our local legislators what's best for our kids and what's best for JCPS. But I can't say that there's been a whole lot of communication, but there has been some. I won't get into any specifics. And I will say this to answer your question. There are at least 5 educators on this committee right now that I see, maybe more, but I know there's 5. I would hope if the intentions are good about this commission, the selection of members would be multiple of these 5 people who are sitting in front of me who I know do this work every single day or did this work every single day. Thank you.
Next, Representative Emily Callaway.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for coming and testifying today on behalf of JCPS. You mentioned truancy, bus drivers, teacher vacancy. We've addressed that a little bit with discipline issues that we've heard. Kind of at the core of that, and some of the bills that we've put forward are addressing that. So we absolutely, to say that 95% of our efforts is on this and not some of those is just an inaccuracy that I wanted to just correct you on. Also, we hear that JCPS should be treated like every other district. But then in the very next testimony from our chairman, we have very complicated issues that some other districts would not understand. So JCPS is its own entity and does have concerns, and some of which I would say, we are complicated issues was the language used, and I would say the SEL focus probably complicates that quite a bit. But and I would also say materials from outside entities that come in, some of the coloring books we've seen from organizations that are just inappropriate, some of that's filtered into the classrooms. Some of the propaganda that gets pushed into the classroom, I think, is an issue that this task force would be able to look into and see how that's happening. While other representatives who would like to come in and spend some time in are not being addressed to do that. So those are some concerns that I'm excited about the task force being able to point out and get to the bottom of. And I would like to ask about the over-disciplining coming from the federal level. Would that be based on the content of their character, that they're being disciplined in that manner and the numbers are high in that regard? Is that what we're looking at here? Is there a specific, are we looking at over-disciplining across the board, or is there a specific focus that the federal government is talking about?
Sure. A couple things first off, and I would like to say this. I know for a fact, folks, that Chuck Truesdale, we offered to have one of these meetings in one of our schools. I think last summer, which was denied because we wanted to have you in our school and take you into our schools. I will have all of my cell phone will be to all of you. Any day you want to come to JCPS, I am pleased to take you to whatever school you would like. I'd love to take you on a tour, and I will do that personally. So I would like to say that. Secondly, to answer your discipline question, the focus of discipline from the federal government, Office of Civil Rights, is on disproportionality in discipline outcomes.
Okay, we have time for one more question, and make it very brief, Representative Raymond.
Thank you. I wanted to ask, so the resolution says that districts with enrollment greater than 75,000 face particular operating challenges. I wanted to ask you all about the flip side. What are some benefits of being a large district? What are some efficiencies you're able to offer? I'm thinking in particular of therapies that we offer to so many of our kids, but wanted to ask you to speak to that.
I'll start, and then if Dr. Shull would like to weigh in, he can. I mean, it is clear, and that's the reason why across the nation consolidation happens on a regular basis, as you would probably look at the number of school districts in the state of Kentucky 50 years ago versus today, it is significantly less. I would probably say to most of you who are in rural districts, I'm sure you have consolidated at some point in your district. That is because of efficiencies. There is no doubt about it. So be clear. If we have to divide up the school district, first of all, I don't know how that would ever be done. I can't even imagine the challenge of making that a reality. But just the matter of whether it's independent school districts. So independent school districts, for instance, which are smaller, their property taxes are significantly higher. You can look and see Anchorage Independent School District versus Jefferson County Public Schools, and you will see a much higher tax rate. So if you, first and foremost, without question, if you go to small independent school districts, like has been proposed in independent cities in Jefferson County, folks can count on their property taxes skyrocketing. I mean, that is a fact. But just alone, if we do it any other way, we'll have 3 central offices. There will be 3 of me. There will be 3 boards. There will be 3 chief academic officers and operations officers and everything that you have to do. There'll be 3 times everything. So, and that's not even getting into the supports and the wraparound services for kids that we try to provide. So, I could talk about this for an hour, but I know we don't have time, so I'll stop there.
I'd also point out the tremendous choice that you have as a parent when your child is in Jefferson County Public Schools. My daughter is with me today. She's a 3rd grader, and she attends one of the traditional options. There is a variety of school types that we host in Jefferson County Public Schools. That would be impossible if you split up the district. Beyond that, we have the Pathways of Louisville, which introduce our students to a variety of careers. They graduate career and college ready. They graduate with certificates for various professions, plumbing, engineering, on and on and on. If you split up the district, you would not be able to accomplish that. You would not be able to have all of those options in every district. And so this attempt to split up the district is wrong-headed on so many fronts, as it really undermines what we're attempting to accomplish in Jefferson County Public Schools.